All right.
well.
Is that better?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know what happened there.
I don't know either. I thought it was my connection, so I quickly went off the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, me too. I just pushed it off of Wi-Fi, but I was seeing you and everything click. Girl, anyway, you know how technology is sometimes. I don't know what's going on, but if it gets blurry, just let me know. I can put back the Wi-Fi or do something else. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. So should we
Yeah.
get down to the topics of today? I want you to begin.
Yes, but we need to pin it in the comments, or
Okay.
basically. So, and while you do that, I'll talk about what we were supposed to be talking about today. So, we Fleurette and I decided to, both of us are YouTubers and we met in London, and both of us decided that we should start going live on IG to just kind of chat, catch up. Let's Just Talk is the name of this series, and just like catch up about what's happening here in the US and what's happening in London, and just like kind of make that connection and catch up with each other. We had said, when we're not on live, we actually do talk to each other. And so some of the topics that we thought about talking about today was stuff like, Dave Chappelle 846 Netflix special. I don't know if Fleurette got a chance to look at that, but it was just his kind of special in reaction to the whole George Floyd and Black Lives Matter stuff. And then we also talked about kind of how being Black in different parts of the world is totally different than other parts, and how being smart, Black, and beautiful, like I mean, that kind of was my topic, because people always, in the world that I socialize in, it's always it's almost kind of received weird when you have like a lot going for yourself. I don't know how to explain it, but we can get into it if we want to. And then there was some like just regular celebrity kind of topics about Amanda Seales and quitting culture is what I called it, which is like she ended up quitting her show. We also thought about talking about Oprah and LaToya Forever and some social media folks, and then and also some of the criticism that we find that Black women are always under, and so just like what that looks like in our daily lives, and like kind of some instances that we saw out in the world that we wanted to comment on. And then, just like anything we wanted to catch up with this week. We both of us actually work. So, some social media people are like only social media folks, but both of us have careers. And so sometimes our perspectives are a little bit different than other people's. And so I kind of wanted to talk about, maybe we could talk about that a little bit more, is like, well, as a person that is in a working kind of career thing, like, how do we think this whole environment right now, or this whole anti-racist sentiment is actually going to play out in the working world? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't know. And then I did get some comments from some girls, some folks. Priscilla, I have a social media friend, Priscilla, and she said she really enjoyed our conversation last time about friendships and how they differ in these kind of like how everything's so different now, and how platonic relationships or even romantic relationships are so different now, and the challenges we have with that. So I didn't know, what did you want to talk about? What was on your heart, or what were
You know
some
what
of
I
your
wanted to start with? I actually wanted
yeah
to start with the Amanda Seales,
yeah
um, the whole, because your perspective is different from my perspective. This is why I like having conversation with you, because we always look at things completely different.
yeah
Uh, okay,
Okay,
here we
tell me
go.
it's better.
Yeah.
It's better, right?
Yeah, I can see you. Hopefully, if you can see her, comment.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, we were talking. I was hearing you. Yeah, we were talking about quitting culture and Amanda Seales, and then I saw Priv in the comments asking about Insecure. But funny thing is, I don't watch Insecure, and you don't either. Why don't you watch
No.
Insecure? Why?
I personally don't watch TV shows because they don't interest me. So whenever I watch something, I just watch things for like educational purposes. That sounds really boring, but that's it. Apart from that, I think when it comes to entertainment, I personally would just watch like an old school cartoon that I watched when I was growing up. But I don't get into TV shows. Like I've never watched Game of Thrones. I've never watched like any. I don't watch any of it. I know people talk about it all the time. That's how I know
Hmm.
about them. But I just don't get into them. I just prefer to watch like a documentary. I think that's just what I'm interested in. So I've
Yeah.
never watched Insecure. But I remember Issa Rae when she used to make YouTube videos and she used to
Yes.
do her little skits on YouTube, and I used to think they were so funny. But no, I don't watch it. Don't watch it.
Yeah.
And I'm so far behind now that I just can't be bothered.
Yeah, yeah. I don't watch TV that much either. I have a television and I just bought it so that my brother-in-law and my brother and my sister-in-law and the kids wouldn't think I was weird because I didn't have when I moved back from London, here's the thing. When I moved, I never had a television in London. And then when I moved back, I moved to DC and they were coming to visit. And so I bought it. I hurried up and bought it a big TV so that they could watch it. And I sometimes I watch some things, but I don't watch television that much either. And then Trump had gotten elected at that time. So I definitely didn't stop watching news for the last like 4.5 years. And so now that the coronavirus and COVID and all of that has come back, I've started to watch news again on TV. And I realized that it makes me entirely too anxious and too stressed out. So I kind of avoid TV. And then I like laptop, I watch a lot of YouTube and Netflix, just recently Netflix, but I don't watch Insecure. You guys need to chime in the comment. What you're saying, Island Honey, too late. What's going on in Insecure? Should we care? What's happening on Insecure?
I think there's a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people say there's like a lot of the relationship dynamics, the friendship dynamics on Insecure as well. So I mean,
like when I watched it, it just seemed a little basic to me. I mean, so and I know it's supposed to be like down to earth and relatable, but for some reason it comes off as basic to me. And the problems that the main and I tried to watch the first season, but I don't even know what season they're on now, like maybe 4. But I felt like the problems on that show were too simplistic and too basic for what I was actually experiencing. So I understood it to be relatable to somebody. I just don't know who the hell is relatable to. So I mean, maybe I'm too. I've been called bougie before, so maybe I'm too bougie for it. But maybe I mean, it just seemed basic to me. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Yes, I'm probably not gonna get into it. Maybe like in 5 years' time, I'll get into it when no one else is watching it.
Yeah. Priscilla saying she started watching it during quarantine. So you was bored and you started watching Insecure. Got it. There's a bougie character. Isn't Amanda Seales the bougie character on Insecure? I'm not. I don't know. She is.
I think there's the other girl, Yvonne Orji. Because I watched snippets of it.
Yeah, Molly is she's like the sorority kind of girl character from what I recall from the first season. And apparently, like, you know how you see it come through on social media and there's people talking a little bit about it, and I see them talking about her interracial relationship that she was in this season, but I haven't been watching it, so I don't even know. I don't even know what's going on. Let's talk about interracial relationships.
That's your thing.
Oh, it's my thing? Okay. You don't know nothing about it?
I keep it in Wakanda. I stay in Wakanda. I don't venture out.
You never come on.
I'm not even lying. I've never even been on a date with a guy who isn't black. Like, I don't even
believe you. I don't believe you.
For real. Like, I think I give off hostile black girl vibes to white guys. Whereas like that hostile black girl vibe, to black guys, they're used to it, so they don't care. But to a white guy, that's very scary. So I give off that, like, if you come up to me like, hey, and I'm like, what?
I feel you.
So I've never dated a white guy. I've never been on a date with a white guy.
Yeah. Here's the deal. London, for me, in the US, it's a nah. But when I travel for some reason, these white guys be pushing black guys out the way to come talk to me. So I'm like, oh, okay. Well, since you so confident, what you spitting? Let me hear something. So some of them, and like what you got to say, I'm all ears, and so the English guys be like seriously be like, they be up for it. And so I was shocked. So when I was over there, that's when I would be like, yeah, let's go on a date, take me out, let's do something, or let's go ice skating. Maybe I like Caucasian things, but I don't have a problem with that. But I think Molly on Insecure this season was having some sort of issues with interracial dating. I ain't watched the season, so maybe we should just move on.
Okay, well, you don't do that no more. So since London, you don't interracially date.
I
I mean,
don't.
London was years ago.
Yes, I know. You know what? I've dated a Desi guy, so like an Indian guy in
Hmm.
DC, but never white American guys are a little not comfortable for me. When I travel, when I go to like other places, other cultures of white guys, it's cool. But for some reason, American white guys don't feel safe to me, so I don't date them. Priv wants to know, would you ever would you ever interracial date, or is that just a no, period?
I love everybody, but I'm attracted to black men.
Yeah.
That's just really what it is. Like I just that's just what it is. Like, black men are good looking to me. They look
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
So until I don't know, I have not come across a white guy that I was like, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
never. It's always just like, oh, okay. But,
Hmm.
black guys, they do it for me, so I'm just gonna stick with what works. So no, I wouldn't.
You
And I'm
know
not
what?
in those areas. I'm not in those sort of like groups. Like I don't even have. I think I have like one white friend, and I grew up all my whole life in London, and I went to multicultural school, and it's like all my friends are black.
Mm. Uh,
African, Caribbean, but like all my friends are black, and that's not even on purpose. That's what I feel like I'm just like a typical black girl. It's just like
yeah.
I just attract black people.
Yeah.
So all my friends are black, apart from one guy, and he doesn't even consider himself white. So
What does he think he is?
he's
Light
like, I'm
skin?
Brazilian, I'm Brazilian.
Okay.
He's white Brazilian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for me, like I don't, I like to travel, and when I travel, I attract who I attract, and that's it. And if you have, it's more about the energy that you're approaching me with, or the swag, or whatever. And here domestically, not much swag, but like outside of here, I'm just like, whoa, actually, you might got, you do have a little bit of a vibe to you. So, that's whatever.
But I
All
think
right.
black American guys are so good looking. They look so good.
Do they?
This is what I'm saying. You're always like, I don't see it. And I'm like, they look so good. They look so,
You know
like,
why? You know what it is? I don't like cute guys. I think it's a waste. I just think, because I know that you're going to be cute and period. That's it. Nothing else. And so to me, I'm just like, yeah, you cute, but you can't be cuter than me. So, I mean, so what's the point? It's not going to be two cute people in a relationship. Like,
oh my
you,
gosh.
like what's the purpose of you if I'm already cute? So I just don't, I'm not here for a cute guy. So I think that's one of the biggest reasons why I'm just like, why I don't care if I see that you're cute or you're tall or you're well dressed, because to me that's an indication that that's your top priority. When for me, my man
Oh,
has,
come on.
I look, that's
Come
how I
on.
feel.
He just likes to look good. He likes to dress good. He likes
Period.
to smell good. That don't mean he hasn't got a degree.
Fleurette, tell me about the escapades with cute guys. Tell me how that goes. How that usually go. Tell me.
There's like five of them in London. So, no
That's what I'm
joke.
saying.
But like when I was on, I don't do dating apps anymore, but like last year when I was on a dating app, I was on Hinge. Like
Uh-huh.
I was on the UK one. I was like, like what's going on with the UK? So I would change my location to say I'm in New York. And like no joke, the amount of good looking black men in New York, I was like, yo, if I ever go to New York, I got at least 5 dates. Five.
Fleurette, do you understand that America is the land of smoke and mirrors? This is where Hollywood is these niggas don't got nothing. You understand me? Like,
They
girl,
look good though.
okay, I look good. I don't need, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need you to look good. I need you to actually you know what I mean? Like, contrary to popular belief, like, yes, it's nice. Okay, let me stop. All right, yes, you look good and all of that. But I do find that the US is the land of smoke and mirrors, which is why we're in this upheaval right now, where everybody's pretending like everything is okay. Everybody's pretending like we're not being abused every single day. And the truth of the matter is, it's freaking hard. Everyone's being abused. All this is a lie. Girl, it's a whole smoke and mirrors, social media, Hollywood, nip, tuck, push, squeeze kind of thing where everything is like just a hot mess. So for me, yes, I can play the game, but it becomes exhausting. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's what I was telling you earlier. I was like, I'm in a mood today because I'm really not in the mood to sugarcoat anything. Look, we got like, you know, I got to bring some spirituality into it. We got like 5 different planets in retrograde. Mercury's in retrograde, which is probably why our technology is messing up right now. We got, today is the summer solstice. We got a new moon in Cancer. We got a freaking solar eclipse. I'm not in the mood for the foolishness. So to me, it's just like, you look cute, cool. That's a plus, okay. But I'm always like unimpressed. So, you know, maybe the problem is me. How about that? I'm the problem. And I'm just gonna have to deal with that, period. You know what I mean? So I don't have a problem facing that either. So whatever.
Seeing as we're talking about black men, let's talk about the #1 coon of the black men right now, Gilbert Arenas. Okay,
Oh
the
God.
#1 coon.
Speak your mind. Speak your mind. Go ahead.
I can't. So Gilbert Arenas recently, he apologized for something that he said about Lupita Nyong'o. Lupita Nyong'o is an Oscar winner actress, Kenyan. Okay, I think she went to Yale. Okay.
Yes.
Check her resume.
Yes.
He then said some rubbish stuff a few years ago about her being dark skinned and basically not being attractive, calling her ugly and all those things. So recently, apparently, he's had an epiphany and awakening. So now he's there apologizing, saying, "Oh, my queen, and this and that. I'm sorry for what I said and this and that." You know, for me, I feel like the apology. Do you know one thing I have to say though? I actually really like the fact that Lupita Nyong'o never paid no attention before, and she's paid him no attention now, to let him know that you are so irrelevant to me.
Dust.
Okay, and that's how you should handle people like that. What is so, like, to me, his apology, it didn't come across sincere. I didn't feel like it was sincere. It was just like, oh, everything's going on, and you're over here talking about black lives, and then people are pulling up receipts about, well, you was dissing black women, so are black women's lives not part of black lives? So I didn't feel his apology was sincere. Not only that, he has a dark-skinned daughter, and his baby mom has also said disparaging things about dark-skinned women. And this is the same, you know. So you have this little girl growing up in a house. Her mom is a light-skinned Latina, and her dad, even though he's a dark-skinned black man, they've both said some negative things about dark-skinned women. And I just feel to myself, like, what is your daughter hearing on a daily basis? Like, what is she hearing? That she's probably, you know, she's going to have issues, especially when she's dark-skinned and her other 3 siblings aren't dark-skinned.
Right.
And then there's things on the internet that her father has said, and her mother said some foolish things as well, made some joke about dark-skinned girls not being pretty a few years ago on some reality show, and, you know, people have to gather her all the way together as well.
Yeah. Remember that social media post where we saw that little girl? It just came out like 2 or 3 months ago, where it's like a dark-skinned black girl and they were combing her hair, and all of a sudden she looked at herself and she says, "I'm so ugly," and the woman combing her hair like stopped her and was like, "Don't you ever say that about yourself. Why would you think that about yourself?" And everybody was acting as if they had no idea why this dark-skinned little girl would react that way. So we have, and I'm going back to the smoke and mirrors, gaslighting, you know, Hollywood, social media BS. So nobody has any idea why the little girl thought that she was ugly? Really?
She hears it every day. You hear it every day. You
see it every day, you feel it every day, you sense it every day. We are sensing beings. You cannot remove the reality from the intuition and the inner understanding of what's actually happening. No matter how people try to paint it to be one way, you still feel it. And so from the mouth of babes, if this little 4 or 5-year-old girl is like, "I'm so ugly," looking at her reflection in the mirror, she didn't pull it out of thin air. You know what I mean?
That was sad. That was sad.
You know,
I mean, you said that growing up as a girl who's dark skin, you never felt that way. You never got that from your family. You never got that from your community. You
No.
never got that in school.
So let me tell you what I got. I could tell that that there was something happening, but for some reason, it never internalized within me. And it's primarily because of my mother. What I have maybe like 2 or 3 instances where I realized that there was an issue. The first one was that there's a lot of light-skinned people in my family, and especially on my grandmom's side. And so I would notice that there was a little bit of a difference in how the lighter-skinned people in my family were treated than the darker skin. And so I noticed
Treated
that.
by who?
The elders.
Oh, okay.
You know, and so I assumed it was a generational thing. You know how people always, white people might have, oh, my granddad, he's racist, but we're not racist. So there's always this kind of separation of the generations. Like the older generation, they be talking all kind of foolishness, and then the younger is like, well, we're not like them. So it was I kind of dissociated myself from it in that way, but it wasn't major. It was just a slight micro what they call like microaggression, where it's like a mosquito bite, and you're like, how come they're the favorites? You know what I mean? But then you're not sure, but you kind of sense it. So there was that. And then maybe one time in school, some old Ted Greg was like, oh, something black cat to me, and it didn't bother me. I was just like, boy, who are you? Like, to me, he seemed like a peasant, so it didn't bother me. And then maybe that was like 2 times. And then, but my mom is the main one who made me acknowledge beauty, because she's dark like me, and when I look at my mom, I'm just like, my God, this woman is so beautiful. And she used to be getting ready, and then she would turn to me and be like, you are so lucky to have such a beautiful mother. Oh my God.
So cute.
And she used to be like making herself, and I used to be like, Mommy, you're so vain. And thank God my mom presented that way, because I always knew that I looked like my mom. So to see my mother loving herself so much so that she would say it to me, and she wasn't saying you were so beautiful, you know what I mean? She was saying I'm so beautiful. And then, down the line, I was like, oh, but I look like my mom, and I think my mom's beautiful, and she thinks she's beautiful, so we must be beautiful. So it was like it wasn't like some sort of outside force that was telling me. It was in my household. There were conversations, things happened. I knew that people thought that darker skin was not good, but for some reason it didn't sink into me. And then beauty came later for me. Intelligence was my number one, and creativity. I knew I was creative, and I knew I was smart, and nobody couldn't tell me anything different at all, period. That's like a Jamaican kind of, you can't tell me anything kind of personality. And then later on, as I matured and knew how to make myself feel beautiful, then I realized, like, oh, smart, creative, and pretty? Look, you can't tell me nothing, you know what I mean? And so it kind of evolved that way. So beauty wasn't the first thing for me, but the smart and the creative and the ambitious was. And then later it was beautiful. So the dark skin thing didn't, thank God I grew up in that kind of like overwhelming self-loathing tendencies, you know what I mean? But I do realize that other people have that experience, and that's the diversity of the Black experience. I was never called the N-word ever in my life, you know what I mean? So I don't have that experience. I don't, but I might be an outlier, you know what I mean? So what about you? What about your beauty standards and feelings of yourself?
Growing up, I never had any hang-ups concerning my skin tone. I never really thought anything of it. Like, it wasn't a big deal. My mom's about the same skin tone as me. Everybody's about the same skin tone as me. I never really felt anything about it. I do remember in school, though, like, the girls that were darker, they were made fun of. They were made fun of. Like, people would make fun of them and say that they, you're so black, you're blue, this, that, and the third. So I remember hearing that. And then as I grew up, I remember the hang-ups that I did have. So it wasn't my skin tone, but I did have hang-ups about my features. So I didn't like my lips because I felt like my lips were too big. Because my mom used to be like obsessed with like Caucasian women's lips, which sounds crazy, but like my
Um,
mom used to think that small lips were beautiful because when she was younger, she had really small lips, and then people used to be like, "Oh, you've got lips like a white woman. That's beautiful." So my mom would purposely, as she was growing up, her lips got bigger, so she would purposely try to make her lips look smaller. And then I was born, and my lips are just big, and then my mom used to be like, "Your lips are so big," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I hate my lips. They're so big." Um, but only when I got older, I realized that my mom had her own hung-ups because she was told that to be like this is to be pretty. You know,
mm,
like my mom was born in colonial times, well, just after the colonial times, but you could still feel it around in Congo. You know, it was just like, I mean, it's like being born in the colonial times is almost like being born in slavery. It's literally
mm,
like, you know, like, so like my grandfather grew up in that sort of era. So you
mm,
would have felt that energy of like, it's complete oppression and things like that. Um, so yeah, that's the only hang-ups I had. But as I got older, I realized why my mom would say those things, and I even started to hear, like you said, the older generation, like some of my aunties would say certain things about dark-skinned people and be like, oh, she's so dark-skinned, as if it's an ugly thing. And I remember starting to thinking to myself, like, you shouldn't say that. And I'd be like, you shouldn't say that, you shouldn't say that. And then they were like, oh, you're a little
mm.
girl, you should mind your business kind of thing. But then I
Yeah.
started to realize that, it's a mindset. They've grown up being told that even in Africa, you grow up being told that if you're dark skinned, you are less than, and if you are light skinned, you are more than.
Mm,
So it's a generational thing. It's not even just a European thing out here. It's a thing even in Africa, even in today's Africa. That's why there's a lot of bleaching going on. Like Congolese people are known for bleaching. They don't want to be dark skinned. They will bleach their skin, completely ruin their skin because they feel like fairer, being lighter is more beautiful. And it's a real deep insecurity, and it's, but I really love the fact that the younger generations of us, we are looking at it and we're like, it's actually wrong, and we're not embracing that culture.
mhm.
I remember being younger and I would see younger girls like 15 bleaching.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
my family's from Jamaica, and the class issue there. So a lot of times, and I would encourage, Jamaican people and just immigrants in general, to America to really stand behind Black Americans in this kind of fight, in this revolution, because even though from our Black countries we might not have the white Black race issue, we definitely have the colorism issue. We definitely have the
Exactly.
classism issue. And
Yeah.
somehow those two happen to be intertwined all the time, where it's like, well, the lighter, the deeper complexion, the more poverty ridden you are, or the more intellectually inferior you are
Hmm.
somehow. And the lighter your skin is, well, the more closer to this aspirational whiteness that you are, and somehow makes you better. And again, this is the white supremacist ideology that is pervasive globally, and it's a problem. You know what I mean? And not only is it a problem, it's nonsensical. It doesn't even logically make any sense. And I was
Hmm.
talking to my girlfriend Ruby about it yesterday. I was like, are we like, I cannot, when I was a kid, I thought we were so much farther ahead than we were societally than we actually are. So as an adult, I'm like, wait, are we still talking about race? Like, we still we're still debating the humanity of a being, a God given being based on skin tone? Like, this is like
Hmm.
ABC 1, 2, 3. Like, how are we still here? You know what I mean? And we're definitely here. I would hear, people say things, but for, thank God, I don't, I do, I feel it, but for some reason I don't let it get me down or stop me. I'm still gonna show out. And the one thing I do say to my friends, though, at work, in the office, sometimes, is I'll have younger girls come to me and they want to kind of me to be their mentor, and I have to let them know that be yourself, stand out, because you are not going to blend in. Your skin by nature demands that you hold space as a trendsetter and as somebody that stands out in the office. So don't think that you're gonna shrink yourself to blend in. You will never blend in. your skin is contrasty, so
Yeah.
so stand out. But I think that we, along with the colorism issues, like we try to shrink and conform ourselves to align with a standard of whiteness that is not necessarily the best thing to do, period. But I don't, I didn't, thank God I didn't have it, but I know that a lot of people have that issue. And I do see it, even in, when you look at my friends that are married or booed up or anything like that, if you really take a hard look at them, you realize that maybe the ones with the lighter skin are the ones that are like, oh my God, coveted, coveted, coveted. And everybody else is kind of like, like the temperature is a little bit different. And I try not to set my mind on it so much, because I don't want to anything that you set your mind on, you amplify it in your life. And so I don't let it bother me, and I just move on and do the amazing things that I want to do with my life, period. But you're not blind, you know what I mean? And you're not dumb, and you do have to acknowledge what you sense, you know what I mean? And there is a clear sense that color does affect your life,
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, but then also on the flip side as well, with the colorism issue, not just on the, on the negative side, saying dark skinned women are bad, this and that. Also, it has an adverse effect on lighter skinned women, in a sense of they become the enemy in a way. There's this dark skin, light skin argument or fight. So when there's issues concerning black people, a lot of black people don't like to add the light skinned girls or the girl that's half black, because it feels like, no, you don't really know the struggle because you're light skinned, so you have a part privilege or whatever, and things like that. Then there becomes this issue within the black community whereby we're fighting against each other. And I do see sometimes, okay, I have seen light skinned girls being really mean to dark skinned girls, but then in turn as well, as I've gotten older, I've seen dark skinned women be vicious towards black and light skinned girls because of their trauma as a child. But then it's like, you can't think, like every light skinned person is like that. And also, there are some people who then have hang-ups about being light skinned. It's like, I'm light skinned, so everyone's gonna think I'm stuck up, I'm not a nice person, I think I'm better than everybody. And it's like, you go into situation already like, no one's gonna like me because there's too many black people in here, because there's so much negativity that people say about light skinned girls.
Yeah. I've heard that before. Like, I watched a documentary about colorism, and some of the commentary from the lighter skinned girls was exactly what you said, was that, they're already going to think I'm this or I'm that, or I'm stuck up. But I also heard one thing, and I'm trying to remember it correctly, but they were saying, the lighter skinned girls were saying that there's these attributes to lighter skin that people always expect you to embody. So you're almost like pigeonholed into this light skin girl personality that people are expecting from you. So it's similar to what you said. It's like they think, they expect certain things from you, whether it be stuck up or think you all that or whatever. But then there's some pushover, like almost, when they, that stereotype of like when a black man dates or marries a white woman and they say, oh yeah, you're with Becky because she's a pushover. You could do whatever with Becky. So in that documentary, the light-skinned girls were saying that it's a kind of similar stereotype that, oh, because I'm light-skinned, then I'm like, feeble or, not as attitudinal or demanding as a dark-skinned woman. So it means I'm less assertive. I don't know what I want. And I'm just more like easy to be abused. And so I do recognize there's definitely that colorism is like a divisive, divide and conquer, kind of system, institutional, anti-black system that harms on both sides, right? So, we do have to be aware of that and have empathy for the condition on either side of the spectrum, right?
Yeah, because it hurts everyone. It hurts the whole community.
Absolutely.
It really does, there are stories of like back in the slave days where they would, especially the Portuguese countries that were colonized by the Portuguese, that the Portuguese slave rulers would, procreate with the African women and have light skinned kids, and then raise those kids to hate the other black Africans. And then they would become the darker skinned people's oppressors. you know. So there is a history behind it, and people used to say, you know, oh, if you are, you know, light skin or whatever in Africa, that you're not fully African, you're just part African and things like that. And even now, you do sometimes even get the people who are, say, half Nigerian, half Ghanaian, half whatever. They go back to Africa and they almost go back to try and prove how African they are. You know, they want to prove to them like, I'm just as African as you. They want to even out African them. You know what I mean? Like, because they read all the books and the culture and they try to learn the language, and it's like they go out of their way to prove it. Whereas if I was to go back to Congo, like, I don't have to prove that I'm Congolese or anything like that, you know, like, not to that extent, you know what
Right.
I mean? Like, they wouldn't. But other people who might be light skinned or something like that, they might get that hostility, like, are you really Congolese? Are you really? And they have to like prove it, like speak the language and know how to cook every single dish. And it's like, I don't know how to cook every dish, but
Yeah,
I'm,
it's
you
all
know,
that kind of stripping away of the authenticity of yourself based on something
mhm.
so stupid as the tone of your skin. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, I was like, are we still here? Like, I can't, I can't
we're
believe
still here.
we're still here. And I'm just like, okay, can this time right now be at least, you know, it might not be one step, but can we at least be 10 steps in front of where we are now? You know what I mean? So I'm hopeful that we still see the changes going. Me and a friend of mine from my job, we're actually going to write an article that that to help progress this kind of movement that we're having from the corporate space. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
what are the things that you're asking for to change systematically in the corporate space that will support anti-Black racism on the long term, not just kind of this as soon as the news cycle, you know, leaves, or as soon as the protesters leave, you know, we're back to status quo, regular, pretending like, you know, everything is better than it actually is. So, you know, I'm gonna do my little part at least to try to still progress the conversations. And like our platform like this, I think is helpful to really just actually talk and not pretend other than what it is. You know what I mean?
Definitely, definitely. So what was the other one? Was this, have we covered this topic of smart Black women?
Yeah, well, that to me, that's the whole dark skin thing. That's the whole dark
Okay, that's
skin
the whole dark skin thing. So
issue.
the Dave Chappelle thing, I
Yeah.
didn't watch it. I'm gonna be frank with you. I completely forgot.
So Dave Chappelle, so basically he did, so I can just tell you a little bit of background about it. So Dave Chappelle is a big time comedian, right? But not only is he a comedian, he's one of these kind of woke comedians where he
Mm,
always finds a way to weave in the race and the systematic persecution of Black people into his comedy. And so it's
mhm,
good because, you know, he has a huge diverse audience, but he never fails to always bring up the perspective, the true Black American perspective, right? And so
mhm,
he did a comedy special on Netflix recently, and everybody was talking about it, and it literally was not like a comedy. It was more like him expressing how gut-wrenching it was to see this happen to George Floyd, and how it is exactly what he has been talking about on his platform this whole time. And I think one of the things that I think really stuck with him was that, you know, the number 846 is how many minutes they were kneeling on George Floyd's, that cop, Officer Chauvin or whatever, was kneeling on George Floyd's neck. And Dave Chappelle was born at 846 in the morning. So he was like saying he cannot get that number out of his head. And he also talked about he was in an earthquake one time. He started the special talking about he was in an earthquake in California, and you know he's from like Maryland, D.C. area, so we don't have earthquakes in Maryland and D.C. You know, on the East Coast, but he was in the
mhm,
West Coast, and there was a earthquake for like he said it was like probably no more than 30 seconds, and he was so terrified. He, you know, for 30 seconds it felt like hours. And he says, can you imagine knowing that you are going to die for 8 minutes and 46 seconds? The terror that that man must have been under that circumstance. And so he kind of started the special that way. And he, you know, he went into it, and it wasn't lighthearted at all. You know what I mean? But a lot of people
mm.
were talking about watching it and just seeing a Black man express themselves in that way, uh, you know, was just another connection to the inhumanity of the situation. So yeah, that's
Mm.
kind of what it's about.
Wow.
Yeah.
But he always goes deep. I mean, even with his jokes, I watched his Netflix special and he talked about Juicy Smollett. But you know, he
Hmm.
adds in like the things that are going on and he makes it a little bit funny. But I mean, I haven't watched that. It seems a bit heavy,
It's heavy. It's
and
heavy. It's heavy.
it's probably why I was avoiding it because he can go in sometimes.
Yes,
Um,
he it was heavy. It was heavy, and he went in, and I watched it. I watched it because I Dave Chappelle. Sometimes I think he's funny, sometimes not, but I thought it was worth a watch to hear what he had to say because I know that it's a platform that he's been talking
mhm,
about every single Trayvon, all the way back to Trayvon Martin.
mhm,
Before that, he's always talked about the that situation, and then just the relationship with police and this kind of ongoing situation. So yeah, it was heavy though. It was heavy. It definitely was not a comedy. So if you go in
all
thinking, oh,
right.
it's gonna be funny, it's not funny. It wasn't funny.
Oh, oh
Yeah.
wow. But I am
Um,
gonna watch it this week. I'm gonna watch it and
yeah.
text you and tell you how I feel.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's saying that we've got 2 more minutes remaining in the live. Anything else you wanna express?
Yeah, we were 2 more minutes. Well, I just want to thank everybody for joining us again and chiming in. I know on the live we have a few people, but on the replay there were at least 200 other people who watched and some comments that came in. So thank you guys for showing up for us. I did have one other topic to talk about, and it was just kind of like a social media relationship that they had announced that they were going to get divorced, and we talked about this
Hmm.
bit about how relationships were really under pressure with the COVID and the revolution and the, and Black Lives Matter and everything. So I just wanted to talk about it to remind people that, this time right now is really going to ask for your relationships to evolve. And it doesn't mean that you quit on the relationship, quitting culture, but it is going to require for you to reevaluate your relationship and why you're with them. So we could talk,
I mean, do
if
you want to start another live? Because we could do that and then
it's hard for me to talk about these things because I'm not married, but I do still think
a
that I could,
relationship is a relationship at the end of
you
the
know what I
day.
mean? But I don't know how you feel about it. Did we get to all your topics?
I mean, I don't mind talking about this because I kind of feel like it's gonna be good.
Okay. All right. So we'll continue the live. So what, it's gonna cut off and then we'll start again.
Yes.
Okay.
So everybody, we need you guys to come back because we're gonna have this one more topic. It's great, and we're gonna take in all you guys' comments and whatnot and all your questions. So make sure you come back.
Yes.